Hey everyone, and welcome back to PN Wreckage. I'm Christian, and hopefully you can hear me over the liquid sunshine coming down in the Pacific Northwest over the last year and a half or whatever. This video is about the difference between the full floor console and leather trim bucket seats versus the 40-20-40 split front seat. Alright, just straight out of the gates, this is a $545 option. You can see from the video I went with it, and frankly a lot of the reason I did go with it really doesn't have anything to do with the actual features involved, and I'll explain what that is in just a minute, but they're, depending on trim level, and that's a very complex conversation, and so I don't necessarily want to get into like the media center and all those things that you get with this particular package. But I do want to talk a little bit about why I went with this and why I think there's some benefits to both of the options. So I have never owned a Ram that has the 40-20-40 split, but a good buddy of mine, here's a picture of him sleeping in it, has the 40-20-40 bench, and I've spent significant time riding in that truck, so I can at least attest to sort of the comfort compared to like what this truck is and what my last truck was, which is the full floor console or full length center console. So a couple things. The seat, like the middle seat in the 40-20-40 split, so the sixth person that you have right here, is legally a seat. Kind of in the same way that the back seats in a Porsche 911 are actually seats. Like, they're more child-sized, and frankly, you're not really going to have somebody who really can fit in it legitimately riding in the front seat. So, is there a second seatbelt, or is there a seatbelt here for the sixth passenger? Yes, there is. It's just a lap belt, and I wish that that weren't the case, but it is what it is. So, I think from just a realistic use of that seat standpoint, like, could you pack 6 people in? Sure. I could also pack 6 people in this truck, like 4 in the back, and then whoever make them ride in the bed of the truck as well. So I don't really know that that's a genuine argument for it, but that's not necessarily the case for everybody. If you have somebody who's, not really concerned about having a lot of legroom, it might be a good fit for them. Or if you're the type of person who has to have your girl like right next to you as you're driving down the road, kind of like a country song stereotype, this might be a good fit for you in terms of getting the 40-20-40. No judgment here, that's up to you. Some advantages of the 40-20-40. You do have technically 2 different storage areas. There's an area below the middle seat cushion that pulls up, and they call it a secure storage area, and I really don't know why they say that, because I think it's pretty common for trucks to have that area underneath like the front bench, and anybody breaking into your truck is likely going to check there. However, one of the advantages would be that this part actually goes up and down. So if you don't like having your elbow constantly resting on a center console, you don't have to. Some people do really like that. I happen to really like having just like a built-in armrest on both sides. It's always been my preferred driving style, and I've always really hated driving cars that have just the like don't have the fold-down armrest, so that like my elbow ends up kind of just hanging here. Minor complaint, but just kind of trying to cover everything with this. So some people do really like that. Again, you have 2 different storage areas, but one of them, is a lot like this, and then one of them is just below the seat, and there are some advantages to that as well. You also get the 3 cup holders in the middle, which is kind of nice, because apparently Ram has decided that if you get the full-length center console and leather trim bucket seats, that your passenger should get 2 drinks and you should get none. I'm not really sure why Ram decided that that should be the case, but they did. Additionally, there's also this sort of like pit in the middle of the center console right here. They've made it a bit more functional. They've included a like an accessory, like a cigarette lighter adapter down in the belly of that, as well as a holder for 2 cell phones, and you can actually have those both plugged in. There's a spot for the cord to come out the bottom, so it can be charging and kind of conveniently placed angled toward you. Beyond that, there are these little like I'll attach the pictures of it. Little pockets on either side of the console, which apparently can fit like a full folder, like a full-size like manila folder or whatever the case is. I don't know why you would have it there, and that has actually kind of been completely useless for me, except I used an old inside the waistband holster. I cut it down and I actually mounted that so that I can have, if I wanted to, like on a long road trip, because I am a concealed handgun license holder, if I wanted to have a handgun just, you know, really accessible and right by, you know, my strong hand, it's just right there. I'll attach a picture of that as well. The reason why I actually went with the full-length center console, and this is not meant to be like an advertising campaign for the company, but it's because of the console vault. And this is really just a giant center console. It's very deep, and it's big enough that I would just kind of otherwise fill it full of crap and like diesel receipts and I mean whatever, like just receipts from like drive-thrus and sort of the stuff that I found about myself to be true over the years of driving, that I tend to just find a place to throw those things, and then like months later I'm digging it out, trying to figure out why it is that I continue to do that. So I had this console vault in my last truck and pulled it out after the crash, and I actually installed it in the showroom, like when this was sitting in the showroom floor. It's like, I probably should have waited until I legally owned the thing before I started punching holes in the plastic, but I think really the main benefit for me and the main reason why I went with this is because this results in, and there are competitors for like, you know, other brands of similar console safe equipment, so, you know, not necessarily just console vault, but it really, I have a bolted down safe where I can stow, you know, a handgun or 4 or 5 because it's huge. My wife's purse, you know, my sunglasses. If you ever park your truck in a place where you're a bit concerned about it being a target, and arguably a new truck like this is somewhat of a target, you have this space where you can keep things. You know, it's this was $269 shipped. I went with the physical key just so nobody could ever guess my password or my key code. But there are other options as well, and I really like that. So ultimately, that's probably the main reason I went with this. I went with the full length console because it does give you that really big area, and you also have like the space under here, which is pretty substantial as well. But it gives you a nice big area to do kind of some alternative things that a lot of people don't do. And frankly, I think it looks super cool having a safe mounted like right in the center of your truck. It's actually a feature you can get from the factory on the new Fords. So score one for Ford in that department. That's kind of nice. Although they do charge you like $150 just for the convenience of having it installed from the factory, and I don't know if there's any real benefit to that or not. So for $545, I think it's really up to personal preference on whether or not you go with that. I think the seats are a bit more heavily bolstered in the sides. I think they hold you in place a little bit better than the bench seat does. And I hesitate to call it a bench seat because it really doesn't look like that flat, you know, vinyl seat that you've seen on a lot of older trucks. It's more of like a bucket seat attached to kind of a fake mini seat, and then another bucket seat on that side. I believe you also get a 6-way power passenger seat on with this particular package, and I think that's regardless of trim level, but if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. Oh, I think the seats look really nice. I went with it just because I don't have the need to carry that many people around, and I really was going for like the most comfortable new 45 mile per hour speed zone has gone in. Everything's slowing down around here. I'm not a fan. So I don't have I don't really regularly carry a lot of people in this truck. I've had 4 people in this truck like a handful of times. That's not, not what I have going on. I wanted to make this as comfortable for just my daily driving activities as I could. And I also, like I said, really do like having a place to put my elbow. So I went with it the first time. I went with it again. And just some things of note. If you have a manual transmission, so if you go with the G56 instead of the 68 RFE or the Ison, Manual transmission, you cannot have the full-length console. You have to have the 40-20-40 split, and that's obviously because your shifter is mounted on the floor. On top of that, if you have a vehicle that has a manual transfer case, i.e. The Power Wagon, and I can't remember if there's another one. It might, maybe the Rebel, I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you have a truck that has that manual transfer case, you also must go with the 40-20-40 split, because again, you're dealing with a selector that's mounted, you know, to the very bottom of, or to the floor. Oh, I think the Laramie trim level looks really nice with the 40-20-40 split. You can see it on the Ram website, kind of like a computerized version of what it looks like, and I'll include a picture of that here. So as far as looks go, I mean, do I think it looks a little bit nicer having the buckets? Yeah, I do, but I don't really think it's the difference between a nice looking truck and a really nice looking truck. If you have any questions about this option or any others, please leave them in the comment section, and I appreciate you watching. See you guys next time.